Dogwood district and one from the North Point district. The North Point seat is for a term of 2 years, while the at-large and Hunters Woods Dogwood seats are for 3-year terms. The apartment owners in Reston will also elect an apartment owners representative. RA board members determine the association's goals and policies, making an important and lasting contribution to the community. Especially now, as Reston is entering a phase of significant growth and change, the RA board is positioned to make an even bigger and more lasting impact on the future of Reston. There are 2 candidates to my left seeking the Hunters Woods Dogwood District Representative seat on the RA board. Shazana Durrani and Victoria White. Welcome. And please welcome the candidates. I'd also like to acknowledge the members of the Elections Committee. If you are a member of the Elections Committee, please stand up. We have Ed Robichaud right here. We've got Karen Anton up the back, and we've got 2 other committee members, Mike Gandelfo and Mark Stelkup, who are not able to be with us tonight, and we appreciate their efforts. So in order to have an election, there must be a vote of the members. Based on the methodology set forth in the association's governing documents, voting by the members must be done by referendum. As such, whether running contested or uncontested annually, the association's members have the right and the sole responsibility for electing directors to the board. I mention this as it is important that you, the members, participate in the election by casting your vote, either online or in the mail. A quorum of 10% must be achieved in each of the 3 races. This evening we will have an opportunity to learn about each of the candidates' positions on various issues of importance to our community. After the forum, if anyone in the audience would like to take the opportunity to vote, the Elections Committee will be setting up a secure online voting station in the back of this room to allow you to cast your ballot. There are several ways to ask the candidates about the issues that matter most to you. On your seat, you were provided with a form to pose a written question to the candidates. Members of the Elections Committee and staff will be collecting these questions from the audience throughout the evening and grouping them by theme. We will also be taking live questions from the audience. And additionally, as this event is being live streamed via the association's YouTube channel, our Elections Committee will be receiving questions in real time from RA's Facebook and Twitter accounts and via email. Let's begin with the opening remarks. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening remark. Shazana will speak first, followed by Victoria. Once each candidate has made his or her opening remarks, the forum discussion will begin. Candidates, please remember we have members of the Elections Committee in the front row who will help you keep the time. It's right there. When you see the red card, please wrap up your comments. Shazana, let's start with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Shazana, and it is an absolute honor for me to be up here next to Victoria, of course, but in front of you. And thank you so much for the people watching on the video. What I want to start with is, what is the charm of Reston? And to me, it's in the community. I mean, and my best example was just 3 weeks ago when, on the campaign trail, my children and I were at the Southgate Community Center passing out leaflets, and instead we were picked up by a really nice Egyptian family who then invited us over for dinner, and they fed us, and my children played with hers, and I was not surprised at all by the turnout of the event because it's just where we live. I've been in Reston for 6 years, and the community and the families is what makes Reston, and I love it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Shazana. Victoria?
Hi, I'm Victoria White. A little bit about me. I've lived in Reston since 2004, and during that time, like most people in Reston, I kind of paid attention to what the RA was doing. But over the last several years, I've noticed that maybe I don't agree with some of the decisions that the RA board is taking or how the RA is operating. And I've finally gotten to the point, thanks to some nudging from some neighbors, that I can't complain about it if I'm not going to get involved. And I know for me, I could get involved by doing what y'all are doing, by sitting in the audience, but I'll find an excuse not to do it. But if I have a commitment, I live up to my commitments. And the big commitment that I would like to make is to find out why we aren't making good decisions within the RA, why we're not meeting our budget line items such as at the lake house, and what I can do to help preserve green space within Reston Association lands and in our community generally, because that is a major threat as we've seen. Thank you.
Thank you. The Elections Committee has prepared a warm-up question for the candidates. Candidates will be given 2 minutes to answer the question. Shazana, we started with you for the opening remarks, so Victoria, we will start with you for the warm-up question and then go back to Shazana for the first question from the audience. Here is the warm-up question. As you may know, the Board of Directors recently discussed a proposal for a new assessment formula based on homeowners' property values. Currently, the policy in RA's governing documents requires virtually all owners to pay the same rate. What is your opinion of the proposal?
For me, the proposal was extraordinarily interesting. As time has marched on, the difference between the high end and the low end of the property values within Reston have gotten further and further apart. I think this is definitely something that we should be discussing. However, I think maybe we should be discussing it a little bit further down the road because we do have some very pressing issues. As I said previously, we need to understand why our budget has gotten so out of whack and why our assessments have gone up so greatly for all of us. And we need to make sure that we are protecting the green space as it does become threatened by developers.
Thank you, Victoria. Shazana?
So the vision that I have for Reston is all within our fingertips. You know, the brilliant minds, the passionate communities, the advocacy of the symbiotic relationship of where we live, the urban and nature. And I see the discussion, the proposal of the tiered assessment really mirrors that. Because our assessments right now preserve the many things that are very special about Reston, but then that is reflected in property values. So I think right now the proposal has merit at considering the setting of the assessment rate. But I agree with what Victoria said about down the road, because we can see all the developments that is happening and the assessments are showing all the changes that we are going through. But we do have a lot of pressing matters that we need to look into first as the board. But I love the proposal for the discussions and the possibilities that we can discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both, actually, for your answers. Appreciate that. Okay, now for questions posed by our audience this evening. As mentioned earlier, questions have been coming in from RA members via email, Twitter, and you, the audience, this evening. We also welcome live questions from the audience. If you'd like to ask a question to the candidates, please raise your hand, and I will scoot out there with a microphone. Please note the rules for questions from members printed on your agenda. Questions must be relevant for both candidates. Members posing questions live will have 10 seconds to speak. Questions must be posed in the form of a question, as opposed to a statement, and must be open-ended. Questions may not be repeated. No question constituting a personal attack on any candidate shall be allowed. And in the absence of questions from members, the Elections Committee will pose questions prepared in advance, but we have plenty of questions, so that won't be an issue. Candidates, I'll now outline the rules for you all. I will alternate between the two of you in offering the opportunity to respond first. Each of you will have the opportunity to answer first 3 times, starting with Shazana. The candidate speaking first will have 60 seconds to respond to the question, and the second candidate will provide a 30-second rebuttal. The first candidate will then have 30 seconds to provide closing remarks on the question, and then we'll move on to a new question. Do you have any questions yourself? All good, okay. So, yeah. Okay. Right, okay. So let's turn this on. Okay. Now, we had a question right here. Let me get the microphone for you.
Oh, you hold it. Yes, Victoria, you had mentioned that the reason that you were impressed to get involved is there were decisions that you differed with or disagreed with, and could you specifically tell us what they are?
Well, this would be a question for both candidates.
Okay, and also Susanna, is that correct? Susanna? The Y and the Z threw me a little bit there. But what issues that the RA has been doing do you disagree with or agree with in particular?
So we'll go with the latter of your question. We'll go with the
Okay,
final
yeah.
part.
Okay, so as a member of the RA, really I've been in the 80% of the community of not knowing very much about the association, and I've thrown myself into knowing. And the last month, what I've seen is when people are engaged, they come engaged very, very angry. And what I disagree with the board dealing with that is I feel people are not being heard. They're not being involved with the decision making from the get-go. And I really believe that people are right in that sentiment.
Thank you, Shazana. Thank you very much. Victoria?
So the specific items that really got me involved were the land swap deal, land that was not worth any money that we suddenly may have had. Can I call it the Tetra debacle? Because that's quite a bit of money that is costing all of us and maybe wasn't the greatest of decisions, was not possibly handled as well as it could have been. And important for my district, the Pony Barn. How in the world we went from, what was it, a $30,000 budget that suddenly went up to, was it $250,000, $350,000? These are things that made me want to get interested.
Thank you for that. And then, Shazana, any closing thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, everything that Victoria says, it's just wonderful, wonderful thoughts and comments. You know, Pony Barn, I don't understand either, the 30,000 to 350. Everyone loves a beautiful butterfly garden, but I don't think right now we need something like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shazana. And we will move on to the next question, which is on the theme of facilities. How do you balance limited funds with the need to update aging facilities with planned increases in population? And we will start with you, Victoria.
Well, I think that this goes to the budgeting process. Once every 2 years, we have a budget that we need to go through, and that budget should also include information about capital improvements. We need to keep an eye on development that's going on in our community so that we can keep updated as to how many more residents we think we're going to have, how many more people will be using our facilities, and how in the world we can continue to not fund refurbishments of things like our pools, and we have to cut hours of the pools. These are things that can be managed through the budgeting process and sticking to our budgets. We all need to do it for our homes, and our businesses need to do it, our employers need to do it to run their businesses. The RA is somewhere between a business and a government, somewhere in between, and needs to figure out that sweet spot of managing its budget while serving the needs of the community.
You know, Victoria is really smart. I agree everything. I mean, we, as a mom with 2 kids, you know, and my friends, we want the pools to be there. We don't want hours cut. I play tennis, and right now I don't think any tennis courts need any refurbishment. But then we do refurbishments that are very important for the upkeep of the people. Thank you.
Thank you both. Time for another question. The theme of this one is the budget, or budgeting. The question is, have you examined the current RA operating budget? If so, name an expense item not previously known to you that represents, in your opinion, a great value to RA members. What 3 concrete recommendations would you make to the board to reduce the association's operating expenses? And that was submitted via email.
That's an excellent question. I must say I'm not very versed in this. I've looked at our operating budgets, and I am going to let Victoria answer this.
Okay, Victoria, over to you.
For me, as far as I've looked at the budgets, but the budget that I've seen on the RA website was not terribly detailed, so I really couldn't tell what comprised some of the portions of the budgets. Some places that I'd like to question is how much do we spend on legal counsel? It's important to have legal counsel, but what are our bills for that legal counsel? I think our staff is phenomenal, and we need to make sure that we have the phenomenal staff we need, but do we need all of the portions of staff and all of the positions that we currently have?
Thank you, Victoria. Shazana, do you have any final thoughts on that? No? Okay, no worries. Let's go to another question here. And we'll be starting with Victoria on for this question. Yep. Should the board support the expansion of pedestrian lighting in Reston, and why or why not?
So I'm not necessarily a fan of pedestrian lighting, and that's despite the fact that I live very close to the Hunters Wood Shopping Center, which often comes up as a place that people are worried about pedestrian lighting. I worry about all the animals that live in the woods and how the light will impact their sleep cycles and how it will generally impact them. I also wonder about the safety benefit from having lights, because as anybody who walks through lights on a lighted path at night knows, when you're under the light, you can see everything that's around you. But when you reach the edge of the light, you can't see what's 2 feet in front of you. So where's the safety consideration there? It's something that I'm happy to think about, but I think that the idea of lights all over the paths is a knee-jerk reaction that maybe is not a good use of our funds.
Okay, thank you. Shazana?
So a cluster reached out to me and mentioned about graffiti in a tunnel. And maybe not lights, I'm not sure, but CCTV. But I think is a cause of concern that I think we can look into about. There is a safety issue that lights perhaps can advocate for.
Okay. Victoria, any final thoughts on that?
No.
No? Okay. So we have question number 4 is live from Twitter. And Shazana, you'll be starting on this question. Question is, what will you do to make sure that RA members are informed of RA capital projects and that capital projects stay under budget, e.g. the pony barn?
So I think what do we do now? We send out postcards, we email 10,000 members, I think, get the emails every week. There's 60,000 of us in Reston. I don't think that's enough. You know, I think more of us need to go down with the people. More flyers out at the community centers, possibly reaching out, families at the schools. Because what I know when I'm speaking to families and individuals is that they don't know very much about the association.
Okay, thank you. Victoria?
From my perspective, when I look at how we notify members better, we've got some great hyperlocal news sources. We've got the Connection newspapers. We've got Reston Now. We should utilize them. Plenty of people read them. We see lots of comments in them, and we should utilize that. Some ways that we better manage the budgeting process is to actually set a budget that matters. Don't just throw a number out into the air.
Thank you. Shazana?
Absolutely, but a lot of the families I speak to, especially in our district, don't read these newspapers. So the newspapers also, they reach out to the same members who are sitting here, I think. So I really want to engage people who go to the community centers, who are at the schools, and I think that should be the resource that we should look into. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have another question here. And this will be, Victoria, you'll be starting on this question here. The theme is perception of crime. The question is, what are your plans for addressing the issue of crime at Hunters Woods Plaza and other areas nearby?
As someone who lives really close to the Hunters Woods Shopping Center, this is definitely an area of concern. I think the RA needs to do a better job, and as a board member, I would like to do a better job of engaging the Fairfax County Police and making sure that they actually are patrolling our paths as opposed to the Reston Town Center. I've lived here since 2004, and I think I've seen the police 3 times. One of those times when we called the police. So we need to do better engaging the police department, and I know that there, in the past, have been groups that met for the different districts, and perhaps we re-engage the various districts to discuss their concerns and get community input as to what the community thinks needs to be done. I have what I think are answers, but I don't know everything, so I would definitely need input from other people. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Shazan?
Excellent words, Victoria. Absolutely, Fairfax County Police. The cluster neighborhoods, that's who we should engage because they have all the members' profiles. And where I live, we are not a cluster. So, just getting together, I think, and helping one another, that's what community is about. Thank you.
Okay. Any final thoughts on?
Yeah, a final thought on that is that I think a lot of the communities are engaged and they are trying to do something, but it's very difficult for the community to be engaged about what's happening in, say, the dark paths behind their homes. So a little assistance from our friendly local police might help.
Thank you very much. We've done the initial 6 questions. We've ripped through those so quickly. We're actually going to do a couple more. So, Shazana, you'll be starting on this next question. The question is, what do you hope to be the impact of your 3-year term on the board?
All right. So when we moved here in 2011, we had seen 100 homes a year prior. And what stuck out to me about Reston is the beauty of the place. So we need to keep that beauty, the green space, beauty, people, beauty, the community, beauty, the association. When we work together, I think that's when we are at our best. So as a board member, I would love to be that bringer, I hope, different perspective. I'm a mom. I play the tennis. I take them to the pools. We use all the facilities, the community center, the association, and bringing that back, that homeliness of what Reston is about.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Victoria, your thoughts?
I'd like to bring a little civility back to the board. Currently, when you go to a board meeting, there is at times a lack of civility amongst the board members and a lack of civility between the board and the community, and I'd like to bring it back to where there's a modicum of respect between the two.
Okay. And Shazana?
Excellent. It's true. I've seen people be very belligerent, and I'm shocked because I've loved living here, and I haven't seen that. And I think working together would bring Reston to where we know it can be.
Thank you. Lucky last question number 8. What specific plans, and this will be Victoria, you'll be answering this initially. What specific plans do you have to include and engage non-English speaking residents and lower income residents?
I have a son who goes to Dogwood, so I am intimately aware of how varied the socioeconomic status of our community is. And as such, I think, as Shazana said previously, it would be good to actually reach out to the schools and get involved with the schools to have, the schools have great resources to engage the local community. I see it all the time in flyers that are sent home with my son every week. Most of it's in Spanish. Occasionally, they forget to put the English translation in there. So I think that that's something that it's very important for the RA to start cottoning on to the fact that not all of our members are native English speakers. And if we want to have a full and wonderful community that we really could be, and we're so close to being there, that we've got to do a better job at hiring people who speak Spanish and engaging with our Spanish-speaking community in particular.
Okay, thank you. Shazana?
Excellent words. I agree. And I just told you about the Egyptian family that I, have become friends with. Egyptian families and the Pakistani ones. The Southgate Community Center is a great resource for us to get into and play with and be a part of to reach out to the communities.
Okay, and then Victoria, any final thoughts?
I think that's a great addition, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. We are nearing the end of the forum. I thank the audience for your insightful questions or question. And also, thank you to the candidates for your thoughtful answers. If anyone in the audience has a question for the candidates that was not answered this evening, please feel free to email the candidates directly at the email addresses listed in your ballot guides and on www.reston.org. The candidates will now be given 1 minute each to make their closing remarks. This time we will start with Shazana. Go for it.
I'm happy here. I wake up happy. Reston, it won't be too much to say Reston brings out the best in me. And I've made friends and who are family. And I would like to bring that happiness back onto the board so that we can reach out to the community with that sole purpose and to meet our HOA goals of togetherness.
Okay. Thank you, Shazana. Victoria, your closing remarks?
I've got over 10 years experience negotiating contracts, from billion-dollar contracts in the commercial sector that are international in nature to very, very small $1,000 contracts. And in doing that, I've learned how to read legalese. I've learned how to understand complex situations. And I've also learned the importance of understanding the other side of an argument. Without understanding the other side of an argument, you're never going to be able to come to resolution. And I would like to bring that to the board, the idea that I can see what other people are bringing to the table and find a solution that works best for as many people as possible.
Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. As mentioned earlier, if anyone in the audience would like to take the opportunity to vote, you may do so here this evening through our secure online voting booth, which will be set up in the back of the room. As a reminder, election ballots are due back by Monday, April 3rd at 5 p.m. Members can vote either by mail or online. Replacement ballots can be obtained by calling 730-435-6570. If you need that number, just come up, talk to us. Or sending an email to electionscommittee@reston.org. For those of you who plan to stay for the at-large forum, I invite you to take a brief recess. We will return at 7:45. Thank you all and have a nice evening.